and autonomy for Tobago. It's another big talking point over the past few days. Well, luckily, we do have with us this morning attorney at law, former member of the Police Service Commission and current chairman of the Tobago Chamber, Martin George, to help make some sense of all of these issues. That's why I call on the gentleman, to make sense of a lot of things in Trinidad and Tobago, and he's not afraid to speak on any issue. So, Mr. George, it's always a pleasure to speak with you.
Hi, good morning to you, Marlon, and good morning to your team at TV6, and good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, so Mr. George, where would you like to begin our discussion this morning? Of course, we have the Forex issue. We have what is happening in the court. Of course, on Friday, we did have a discussion about armed police officers in the courtroom. Of course, the Chief Justice has major concerns about that. The police are really maintaining their position and standing their ground, saying, well, here's what. If you're not going to allow us into the court, well, we gone. So that has been a controversial issue. And of course, in the past few days, the Chief Secretary has been talking about autonomy again. Over to you, Mr. George.
Yes, all right. Okay, so Marlon, in relation to the issue with respect to police officers and carrying firearms into court, I don't understand how there's even, a debate on that. The Chief Justice is 100% correct on this matter. In other words, the Chief Justice is in control of the judiciary and he's responsible for the judiciary's buildings and facilities. And therefore, they are the ones who make the rules and regulations governing the use of those buildings. And if part of their, dispensation says that, you are not to allow persons with firearms into the building, then that's it. There's no argument or issue there. It's the same thing as what occurs in terms of, like, for instance, at the airport, where you have the airport's authority guards who are estate police officers, and the airport authority compound is their estate at Piarco Airport and also at ANR Robinson Airport. And if they say you cannot carry firearms onto the aircraft, you cannot carry firearms onto the aircraft. You could be commissioner, you could be deputy, you could be who. If they say you cannot carry it on, then you cannot carry it on. Of course, they do make provisions whereby licensed firearm holders, they're able to, take you to a room, put it in a strong box. They keep it securely for you, and they have it transported in a special section in the cargo hold. But you cannot carry it on your person. And it's as simple as that. And the thing is, in the same way, concessions can be made with the Chief Justice if it is that there's some particularly high profile, person being, before the courts who there is really the need for extra security. Then you have discussions with the Chief Justice and you say, well, look, Chief, in this case, we are asking, would you be able to allow these particular officers, you give the names of the officers, you give the types of weapons that they will be carrying, etc. And I mean, the Chief Justice is not unreasonable. I'm sure he will then be able to say, well, okay, look, in this particular instance, yes, we will allow it. But you can't allow every Tom, Dick, and Harry Lal who feels that they, are, a police officer with a firearm, that they must walk in and out of the court as they please. You cannot have that. Suppose that police officer is a defendant in, say, for instance, a matter, or say, for instance, he has a domestic violence matter before a court or something of the sort, and, things get heated in the course of the argument. Remember in Jamaica, some months ago, when a prisoner was being escorted out of the court, the prisoner was able to grab a police officer's gun and be able to, escape. Thankfully, he didn't shoot the officer.
Yes.
But the point is, with the gun in his hand, the police officer had to let him go, because the prisoner had the gun.
But
so
Mr.
could
George,
you imagine a scenario like that inside a courtroom?
All right. So, but Mr. George, there are few arguments by the police. One, you would have spoken about what transpires at the airport and so on. So I guess we can say, well, that is a totally different thing, because you do have a great great risk in the courtroom. That's one. Number two, I think that police officers have spoken as to what has transpired in the courtroom in the past. Of course, there have been, incidents in the dock area of the courtroom with prisoners fighting. I remember this very, very clearly. There was a situation where feces were thrown at a judicial officer.
Yes,
so
Marlon,
I guess the argument is police officers have to be prepared for any and every event.
Right. And what are they suggesting? That they will start shooting in the courtroom at random? I mean, let's be serious. Even if you have your weapons, what are you supposed to do? You start shooting off rounds. If you're talking about a criminal trial where you have jurors present, you have members of the public present, you're going to just pull out your gun and start shooting at random? Because I mean, it's a reckless scenario anyhow, if you think of it. So it cannot be that our only solution to everything is that, oh, you must have guns. You know, it's like the absurd stupidity you see sometimes police officers walking through a crowd in a party with these big, long assault rifles. I mean, what palpable stupidity. If something starts up, what are you going to do? Start discharging an assault rifle in a crowd of thousands of people? I think it doesn't make any sense, Marlon. You look at London. You go through London. You see police officers everywhere. Not one of them you see with a gun. So let's understand that this is folly.
But shouldn't this be based on data, Mr. George? Shouldn't this be based on data?
No, Marlon. It's based upon what the judiciary's policy is. And if they say you are not allowed with firearms, end of story. As I said, if there's a particularly high-profile matter that requires, some sort of, extra protection that you feel there's a need, then you have a discussion with the Chief Justice. Otherwise, he's quite right. And he's fully entitled to say, no, you are not coming into my court.
On Friday.
And in fact, if they violated, the judicial officers should seek to take steps and make sure that those persons are arrested for violating that policy.
On Friday, the president of the Police Social and Welfare Association, we had him here, and he was saying, well, policy cannot trump what is the law. And he says the law provides police officers with this opportunity. And he is saying, if it is that they accede to the CJ's request, they are going to be breaking the law.
Marlon, that's the kind of palpable stupidity that passes for what is, described as police intelligence. That's rubbish, because the same way I just gave the example, okay, so because you are precepted and you have the right to carry a firearm, then why don't they go on board an aircraft and say, well, look, I'm going with my aircraft. I'm going on with my firearm on the aircraft. If they're traveling overseas, why don't they say, well, look, I'm boarding an American Airlines flight with my firearm because I have the right to carry a firearm? It's rubbish. The rights are always constrained by responsibilities. I mean, it's just, I don't even know why there's a debate on this. Because if the judiciary lays down that rule and says this is our policy, then that's the end of it. It's not something that's up for discussion,
Yeah.
It's not something that's up for discussion. So that's why I said, if it is that there is a particular case that, requires some extra protection, then maybe they could seek to, engage in some, reach some, meeting point with the Chief Justice for on a case-by-case basis.
Yeah.
But you cannot have carte blanche that police officers could just walk in and out of a courtroom. So it may be that a police officer may not even have an interest in a matter, but he just decides, look, I'm coming into the courtroom and I'm walking with my firearm. Come on, it's nonsense, absolute nonsense. You go to the industrial court, you can't walk in there with your firearm. They have their rules. They take you to a room. You have to discharge your firearm. They keep it safe for you and stuff like that. You can't go into the courtroom with your firearm. Parliament, Could any police officer just walk in Parliament with a firearm and say, well, look, I'm sitting down as a member of the public gallery and I have my firearm? Obviously, the Parliament would be entitled to determine its rules and regulations if it is they want to allow that or not.
Yeah. I think that there has also been a concern that the facilities at the court, maybe it needs to be upgraded, because I remember on Friday there was this discussion about police officers lodging their weapons, their guns, at the police station, at the district police station, and then going to the court. And I get the impression that police officers feel, well, the facilities at the court, it has to be upgraded. That's in one respect. And also, you do have a situation where you have security guards who may not have an FUL or who may not have an FUEC, asking and demanding police officers to hand over their weapons to them. And I suspect that is also a concern, because just the act...
No, in those regards, then of course, yeah, if the judiciary needs to step up their game, then they need to do so. If they need to create a special strong room and a strong box and a proper safe and etc., if it is that's not in place, then yes, I agree, that needs to be done. But the thing is, you don't use that as a basis to say that, you therefore could walk in and out of a courtroom with your firearm as you choose. It's not to be.
Yeah. All right, Mr. George, I think that we have fully ventilated that point this morning.
But Marlon, there's another issue
yes.
I just want to raise before
course.
we move on. Over the weekend, there was supposed to be a birthday celebration for someone in Beetham Garden.
Yes.
Apparently a well-known figure there. And, I'm a bit, bemused by what I saw as the turn of events, because I saw, of course, one has to verify the accuracy of these things, but I saw that, the police had initially, allowed the event, and I saw a receipt that showed that somebody supposedly paid $174,000 for a strength of 122 police officers for the birthday bash. And then I subsequently heard that through, I think, DCP Suzette Martin, she objected, or, the hierarchy of the TTPS objected, and they went back to court, and the license for the birthday bash was eventually, cancelled, and the event had to be, pulled off. And, I was wondering about that, Marlon, because, okay, first of all, I would have thought that if you have 122 police officers at that event, wouldn't that be the perfect opportunity for you to issue so many arrest warrants and be able to charge and take in so many persons who you might be looking for, who might be coming out and attending that event in the thousands? I mean, I thought that, well, yes, the police are really going to use this opportunity. If you have 122 officers, you have half of those as undercover officers moving through the crowd. You have a list of names who you're looking for, persons who may have outstanding warrants, even persons who you may just want to pull in for questioning. You have their names, you have their pictures, and you make mention. You say, okay, look, yes, I saw this one here. You quietly pull them aside. You arrest. I mean, it seemed to be a ripe opportunity. If it is that you are claiming that these are gangsters and gang leaders and criminals, etc., if that is your fear, then you have such a gathering of them, and you have 122 armed police officers. Why did you not allow the event to take place, have your officers there, and you start issuing arrest warrants like crazy? But Mr.
George, isn't that also a ripe opportunity for riot?
Yeah, but you have 122 armed police officers, plus if it is that things escalate, you call in support. You have 122 armed officers. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I understand what you're saying.
why not try to use that? Or you don't have to necessarily make a big song and dance of the arrest, The point is, the people, they have to go by the bar, they have to go to the bathroom, whatever. So you don't have to go in the middle of the crowd and, seize somebody in the middle. No, you wait till you have your eye on them, you're watching them, you say, all right, okay, look, you're going by the bathroom now, and you quietly just pick him up there by the bathroom, or you're going by the bar. You just take him there. If you understand me.
I understand you, but all I'm saying, I think that there are repercussions to this. And there are even political repercussions to this.
Well, Marlon, you see, and that's the problem. When we start politicizing the issue of the fight against crime, that's where we run into problems. When we start politicizing it and you start making it a political issue, right? You see what happened in Jamaica, where Prime Minister Holness went out into the very communities where his political party gets support from the gang leaders, and he told them, he said, listen, partners, I came to tell you all, we're going and stop all the government contracts. We're not giving you all anymore. So there's a political price he will pay for that. But the point is, at some point, we need to draw the line in the sand and stop pussyfooting on these issues and stop playing political games, right? You remember the grand political game that was played when a former prime minister invited a host of gang leaders down
community
to
leaders.
The hotel. Well, sorry, yes. So, my apologies. Community leaders, yes, the good, decent members of the community to, a meeting down at one of those hotels in Port of Spain, opposite the Port Authority there, And again, I made the point, I said, well, this is a brilliant strategy. Obviously, they're going to be, arresting these people by the droves if it is that these are, persons who are wanted and you may have outstanding warrants. And instead, they were feted and treated and, like royalty and allowed to leave. And I couldn't understand the logic of it. But you see, that's where the politics comes in. And that's what is the problem in Trinidad and Tobago, because we keep playing politics with crime.
Yeah. How have things, let me put it this way, have things improved in Tobago, you think?
In terms of?
Crime?
Well, for the criminals or for the citizens?
Well, for the citizens.
Because the criminals seem to be having a field day. Thankfully, there hasn't been any murder recently, so fingers crossed on that one, and I know that definitely the two new officers, I had a chance to meet and chat with them, those two who are in charge of the Tobago service, and they seem definitely committed to trying to make a difference, and they are willing to try new strategies and new initiatives. And of course, we as a business chamber, we intend to support them in that regard and partner with them as much as possible. We are actually I was able to get my fellow directors at Crime Stoppers to arrange for a revamping of the Crime Stoppers program in Tobago. So at the end of this month, we are going across to Tobago with a big caravan and, to really try and resensitize the public in Tobago about the value of using the Crime Stoppers number, 800 TIPS, because it's safe, it's anonymous, and you can call in and give the information without ever being identified.
What's your take on the recent carnival celebrations in Tobago?
Well, the thing is, I think despite the fumblings and bumblings of the THA and its hierarchy, the carnival was a success. But the thing is, that's because carnival as a product is something that we as Trinbagonians and persons of the Caribbean diaspora, we know that it's something we like, and therefore we will willingly participate and, make it good, right? But the thing is, it needs some proper guidance, leadership, direction, planning, foresight, because you saw them, announcing a budget 2 weeks before the event, and, that kind of, amateurish type of, planning that went on. So it needs some proper management and harnessing to make it a truly international event. Let me tell you, Marlon, it has so much phenomenal potential but you need the expertise of persons who know about the business of Carnival to manage it. And unfortunately, the folks at the THA, they just simply don't have that skill set. Let's be real. All right, okay? I mean, if you've never even played mass or never even, had anything to do with a mass band or anything, so then you really don't have that knowledge. Now, credit must be given to some of the Tobago band leaders who really have stepped up their game and improved their product and stuff like that. So kudos to them. But in terms of the overall management of the event, the THA needs to get some professional help. And, they need to, debunk these foolish ideas about, having a contingent going to Grenada to study Carnival. I mean, that's just the height of folly, Trinidad is the mecca of Carnival. People come from all over the world, from Japan, Australia, New Zealand, wherever, to study Carnival in Trinidad. And you are sending a team to Grenada to study Carnival, So hopefully they've gotten over those initial follies and they will settle down and get some proper professional help and guidance to make the event a truly international one, and it has phenomenal potential. I can tell you, Marlon, I've been there, I've been in it, and I have seen the potential that it has.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about the Forex issue. I know that this has also been impacting heavily on members of the business community in Tobago. What has the impact been? And let's talk a little bit about the management, government's management of the entire issue.
Well, the thing is, it's impacting businesses in Tobago, I guess, very much the same way that it's impacting the businesses in Trinidad, the same way it's impacting the man in the street in Trinidad and Tobago, the way it's impacting parents who have children abroad who are studying and can't get foreign exchange to be able to send to their children to, finance their studies. It's impacting, a mother who may have a child who needs some urgent surgery abroad, and you are applying to the bank and you cannot even get access even to the US in your own account. It's impacting the same way that it's impacting everyone. And, it's unbelievable that we in Trinidad and Tobago, we are the ones suffering this type of crisis. When you look up the islands, Marlon, none of the other small islands have any foreign exchange crisis. None of them. Because their governments have managed their scenarios, managed their economies in a way and in a manner that facilitates the inflows of foreign exchange. And I mean, even one of the ways that I have suggested in terms of Tobago, and I mean, of course, for Trinidad and Tobago generally, that there be the immediate and unconditional repeal of the Foreign Investment Act. That is a simple solution that can be implemented tomorrow. If you understand me, why are you blocking direct foreign investment and then complaining about a shortage of foreign exchange? I mean, it's the definition of madness.
But let's talk a little bit about your suggestion. What will it do?
Okay, because the Act presents so many hurdles, obstacles, and restrictions. When you look back over it's been in place, I think, since 2008. All right, so you're talking about over the 16 years, you have not had 16 successful applications. I could tell you that as a fact. So in other words, not even one successful application per year. So therefore, clearly, it is restricting foreign investment. Mm-hmm. If you remove the act, it then allows persons to make direct foreign investments into Tobago, for development purposes. If you want to develop a hotel, a villa, a guest house, the point is, if you are coming in as a foreigner, you are coming with foreign exchange. They're not coming with TT dollars. Yeah. They're coming with foreign exchange. So therefore, you have massive inflows of foreign exchange immediately. And as I said, the spillover and benefit to Trinidad is obvious, because if somebody's constructing a small hotel, where would most of the materials have to come from Trinidad? Sometimes even, the engineering support, the labor, etc. Some of it may have to come up from Trinidad, because you may not have the full capacity in Tobago. So therefore, the inflows of foreign exchange will benefit everyone. So why are we clinging stubbornly and foolishly to this archaic and anachronistic piece of legislation? For what purpose? Who is it serving? Who's benefiting from it?
Yeah, Mr. George, I don't know about you, but looking at this whole Forex situation and looking at how long it has been going on for, and looking at recent statements of the finance minister and the concerns of the business community, my assessment of it, and I could be wrong, but my assessment of it is that this is going to be here with us for a little while longer, you know.
Well, the thing is, you see, I mean, the reality is we are earning less foreign exchange than we did previously. That's the reality. And that has been, something that has been, staring us in the face for more than a decade, Marlon. In other words, we are seeing the train coming. We are standing on the tracks, and we are doing nothing to either stop or slow down the train or to move ourselves off the tracks. Basically, because in other words, every year you hear the government talking about, oh, well, there's need to diversify the economy, but then yet still we continue with basically almost a majority reliance on oil and gas exports as our major sources of foreign exchange earnings. That is the reality. All right. You look at the revenues from the oil and gas companies in terms of the taxes they pay and what remittances they make. That is down also. In fact, I even saw a proposal where some of them want to now start paying their taxes in TT dollars, right, instead of the foreign exchange that they earn from the sale of our hydrocarbons. So therefore, you are in a serious situation that we have been all aware of and facing for the longest while. You know that your foreign exchange earnings are down. You've done nothing to really boost it in any major or tangible way, and then now the IMF comes in. The IMF gives a suggestion, but of course, implicit in that might be the prospect of devaluation, which no government in Trinidad and Tobago wants to hear, because that is almost like a death knell for the government, because they know the minute they issue that and there's a devaluation, it most likely will mean that they will pay a price for it at the next elections. So therefore, they don't want to even hear that word. So therefore, we are locked in this crisis. And as you say, the foreseeable future shows that we will be here for a while. It's not going to, there's no magic bullet and no immediate ease out of this. I mean, of course, I know the government is hanging its hopes dearly on the Dragon gas deal and hoping that that will now, increase the inflows of foreign exchange earnings if that gets off the ground in terms of, actually being operationalized. But of course, that you're talking about 2-3 years, down the road. So we are in this for quite a while again. And the thing is, if the removal of the Foreign Investment Act is one immediate step you could take, yes, then I think the government needs to start explaining to the people why they're not doing it.
Yeah, Mr. George, I just have about 2 minutes again. The Chief Secretary is again speaking about autonomy for Tobago. We have had a long discussion in the past concerning autonomy. From that time to this time, has there been anything that you have seen, improvement in Tobago to really embrace this concept of autonomy for the greater management and efficiency in Tobago, you think?
Well, the thing is, you see, it's a nice talking point for Tobagonians, and it's something they all get fired up about. You just mentioned that word, and they all get very passionate about it. But it's not something they have thought through at all properly.
Yes.
With the greatest of respect. Because when you speak autonomy, it also means financial autonomy. And I don't think that's the aspect that any Tobagonian really wants to hear about or talk about. So in other words, if it is that you reach a situation where the central government says, well, okay, all right, we're going to give you the autonomy, but, the 3-point-something billion you get every year from us, that will stop immediately. Where is Tobago going? Where is Tobago surviving? How is Tobago managing? In other words, Marlon, this has been, as I have described it, a dog chasing down a car. You're running behind the car and you're barking, barking behind the car. when you catch the car, what are you going to do with it? And that's exactly what autonomy represents for Tobago right now.
Yeah, Martin George, it's always a pleasure speaking with you, You see why I brought the gentleman this Monday morning? When you catch the car, what will you do? Thank you very much, Mr. George. Have a good day. Have a good week.
Most they could do is pee on the tires.
Bye for now, Mr. George. It's always good to speak with you.
Okay, take care.
All right, so we are going